Hi, I'm John Valentino here with Chip Valentino. We're here at a tree farm. We're ready to talk to you about tree transplanting, which applies to all kinds of transplanting. The principles that we cover here, you can apply to transplanting any kind of plant, and it's particularly useful to see how it's done with the tree spade, which we'll look at that today. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Chip and I plan to be doing a lot more videos for you. If you like them, please click on like and click on subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll be notified every Sunday when we post our new videos. Chip and I are working on two jobs right now that involve transplanting mature trees. So we're here at the tree farm because this is where you go if we want reasonably mature trees for a project. There's two ways you can approach it. You can use a tree farm like this where you walk around, you find trees like this, or you might need to transplant trees on site, and we did a project like that at a regional hospital, and we'll show you the result of that. So the most important part to ensure success of any kind of transplanting is to retain as much of the root mass as you can. And if there's a way to dig out the plant you're going to transplant without damaging roots at all, that's what you want to strive for. And one of the best ways to do it, most of us don't have the equipment to do it, is with a tree spade. It's a good example of how transplanting can be done with very little loss of plants because so much of the root mass is retained. So as you can see, this tree spade is digging up this tree in a way that minimizes root loss, and it picks up the whole thing in a big root ball basically, and then moves it, transports it to the site and sets it in place without any kind of damage. And you can set it in place in a way where it looks like it's been there for 10 years. You can't even tell a transplant has occurred. And if possible, this is the kind of concept you want to use when you approach any type of transplanting. And the tree spade is a great example of how it can be done almost any time of the year. This is perfect kind of time of the year for transplanting. We're in the middle of December right now, but it can be done in the middle of the summer. We've done lots of transplants with a tree spade, and it doesn't bother me at all because there's very little damage to the roots, and the tree almost doesn't notice the transplant, rarely loses leaves or anything. We water it well, and so it's a great example of how to have successful transplants without plants dying or even declining. At this corporate center, we're encountered with about as bad a soil as I've ever seen. We've done other projects equally bad, but this is about as bad as you can get. Lots of times people complain to me that they have hardpan, but they don't really have hardpan. I'd say 50 to 70% of them don't have real hardpan. It's just hard, compacted soil. This is real hardpan, and you can tell when we try to dig it with big equipment, it smokes, it clangs. Hardpan is like concrete. So you've got some real challenges here in preparing this for big trees because we want water to drain well, and we don't want water to sit around the base of the tree. And so preparing the hole, what we did in this case is we used an auger to go through right in the middle of where we want to plant the tree. We drilled through everything. The hardpan layer you can see in this soil, just after 3 or 4 inches, you hit this. It's rock. It's hardpan, and it goes for another couple of feet where it's very hard to dig. And so we drilled through that, and we kept drilling until we hit sand. And we did hit sand here at about, we think we were at about 8 or 9 feet. And then we know we're through the hardpan. Now we've got things draining well. Then we used our mini excavator, and we dug around that hole because we need about an 80-inch diameter excavation and a 4-foot deep excavation to accommodate this big root ball, which we don't want to damage the root ball because that's the whole key to success here. This is the perfect way to excavate your hole if you have any kind of hard soil. First, make sure you have drainage, then make an excavation wide enough to accommodate the root ball, and that's what we've done here. So even though we've made those preparations for the hole, and we know we have all this hard soil around and we're going to change that, still we want to be careful not to plant the tree high, because we still want to make sure water doesn't collect around the base of the trunk, and the way to make sure of that is to plant it a little bit high, which we're doing here with the tree spade, and so water will drain through and also drain off the top of the root ball to always keep it dry. Then we have this terrible excavation. You can see the edges of it are full of rock and such. We don't want to fill that with really great potting soil, because then we create what's called the bathtub effect, where you have this transition from lousy soil to good soil, and it's difficult for the water to drain from one medium to another. But we don't want to put all that lousy soil back in, so what we've done is we amend with about 1/3 the native soil with some better potting soil. So we have some of the properties from the native soil in the backfill, and we fill that in. We use lots of our blend, which is a combination of our Maximize, Nourish-biosol, and Optimize. So we're trying to infuse this soil with life. So we've got good draining soil, we got lively soil, and even though we're planting in this terrible site, really, we're creating an environment where these trees are going to do great. So in this case, we think we have very little root loss, and because you can tell how they're dug out, and there is very little root loss. And we usually don't do a lot of pruning right from the start, especially this time of the year. There's not a lot of evapotranspiration going on because of the weather. So what we are going to do is we're going to plant, there's 4 trees in this case, we're going to plant all 4, and then we're going to prune them, we're going to thin them for general health, but we're not going to do a lot of pruning for root loss because we don't think we lost many roots. If you believe you've lost roots, then you need to do more thinning cuts and try to compensate for that root loss with taking away leaves and branches, because it's leaves that require to be fed with water, and so we try to balance the loss of roots with loss of leaves and branches. But in this case, we're just going to wait. We're going to plant them all, and then we're going to prune to make them all look similar. There's lots of interesting garden myths. One of my favorites, you can Google garden myths and find out lots of things that you probably thought were facts. One that seems to persist on for years and years and years, even though it was disproven quite a while back, is the myth of vitamin B1 for transplant shock. And what was proven is that that is a myth. It really doesn't help with transplant shock. In fact, there's some belief that it might actually inhibit mature roots from thriving. And since you have mature roots when you do transplanting, that's a problem. But anyhow, there's no reason to use vitamin B1 when you do transplanting. Instead, focus more on the things we're talking about in this video. Good drainage, and then infuse that soil with all kinds of life. You can look back at the other videos we've done, our products or other products, like we mentioned in the one where we talked about all the possibilities of building complex life in soil, such as kelp and humic acid and earthworm castings. We're going to focus on making all the soil that we use in this memorial rose garden full of life, healthy, well drained, and that's the way to allow transplants to take as quickly as possible and then thrive.
Hey there, friends. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell. Want to learn more about our products? Then head over to our website, www.johnandbobs.com.